Here's where we ended off last time. This was our simple annotation. Real simple, because that's how we allow ourselves to engage with it for real. And if you didn't catch step one and you want to know how we got here, the link for that is in the description box, so you can watch that first. In this video, we're going to look at these annotations again and add complexity. This will allow us to write an intro paragraph that starts specific and gets super specific. This will allow our intro paragraph to be unique, also BS free. Now, I see in a lot of these other videos, they're telling you guys to identify the core text details, like who the author is, what kind of text it is, what's the title. Go ahead and do that if you want to be forgotten. Like I said in the last video, that shit is boring and is going to put your teacher to sleep. Your teacher already knows those things, so what the fuck? The essay you're writing is not about the author, it's about you. Namely, your educated opinion about that author. So lead with yourself. Introduce the subject you're going to be writing about. That's your priority here. And as you can see, this was our subject we came to last time. Country versus city, the idea we've lost our innocence, simplicity, quality of life with the rise of cities. So if we start from our first one, far from making herself beautiful by art. Okay, we talked about this last time. The authors believe she is beautiful, but far from making herself beautiful by art. So, now we have this context of, all right, it's about cities. So how can we see that with this in mind? Well, these guys are kind of saying like, cities are all fake. They're calling silk like a spoil. They're saying aromatic ointments are kind of vain. They're fake, that sort of thing. We look at this word art. What else can it mean? It's kind of a root form. If we look at another word on the theme of fakeness, that word is artifice. There's a kind of artifice or artificiality. There's also this idea that art, even this thing, it gets a bit meta. This thing is a work of art. This sketch about the milkmaid, it's an art piece. Are they even disparaging art forms in some way? Are they saying all forms of art, all forms of representation, representing real life by making a sketch about it like this one? How far is the milkmaid from that? So if you want to go extremely advanced, there's that meta element. But anyways, this idea that representations of things which were really starting to happen in the cities where art was taking form, even that maybe is too complicated. All right, so we've got that. If we look at spoil of the silkworm, last time we said silk equals bad. This was our very simple annotation. It was silk equals bad because spoil and worm don't really go with silk. Instead, what we can say now to make it more complex is I see that as a pun at work. Spoil is kind of like a thing that comes out of a body, usually is kind of bad, gross, icky, etc. It's a silkworm creating silk. We like to think, oh, silk is nice and fancy, beautiful, and all that. Once we reduce it to what it really is, which is spoil, a thing coming out of a body, now it's gross. So there's two meanings of the word spoil. One is this idea of coming out of a body. The other is the idea of, literally spoiling something, literally ruining, which in this case would be someone's appearance. It gets spoiled when you wear silk. So both meanings are kind of disparaging. Another meaning is kind of like spoils of war, that sort of thing. Spoils of war would refer to back in the day, armies would do battle, and then the soldiers who were still alive would loot the dead soldiers for any expensive stuff, weapons, armor, silk in someone's pocket, I don't know, maybe. And then that would be considered the spoils of war. So even that is a third definition. And it's once again, if you kind of visualize that whole experience there, the whole war thing of it and looting, that component, it's kind of, not society at its best. And that's another third definition of spoil, that's to use a word high schoolers use all the time that I tell them not to use, negative connotation. All three things that are bad about spoil. I gotta fit this in here. So we've got literally spoil, spoils of war, and oh god, I can't even remember. Oh yeah, excrement out of body. And these are all puns. Sorry, this is a pun with multiple meanings. Let's go on to our next note. For never came almond glove or aromatic ointment on her palm to taint it. So, we were just talking about how these added smells kind of give this clearly bad vanity that would make the milkmaid's touch, her scent, her whatever, her process of milking the cow worse, more artificial now, going back to far from art, kind of suggests to us that this is what effete city people do. Effete, E-F-F-E-T-E, I believe that's how you spell it. You know, like country folks, typically they'll wear hardier, sturdier, like plaid lumberjack looking jackets, bit baggier pants, end up in the city and now they're wearing like skinny jeans, slim fit jeans, I don't know, denim that rips easily. Maybe it's already pre-ripped, in fact. So all that stuff is effete. It's kind of soft. It shows that you're kind of a wussy or whatever. Those kinds of things that you put on to make yourself look kind of pampered up and effete, those are tainting things according to our boys Overbury and Webster, the authors of this sketch. And so too is this almond glove or aromatic ointment. This is a showcase. The almond glove and aromatic ointments are kind of showcasing what city life is. So showcase of city life, then either in the intro or the essay, if you use this term, like, you know, the authors showcase city life, right? And then you need to give an example of that. Bam, here's your example of city life back in their day. It would be, you know, these city slickers. No, that's the wrong term. These like city softies walking around with their almond gloves and aromatic ointments. That would be an example of city life back in the day. All right, so we've got that one. And then last one, she makes her hand hard with labor and her heart soft with pity. Would this be the opposite of city people? You know, that was a little more on the complex side from last time, so I don't really feel the need to expand on that one too much. Maybe I'll just kind of affirm it over here and say yes. Also going back to the whole rhetoric thing, many of you would have learned this term already, parallelism. So you can see we got pun, sorry, it is here. And we've got parallelism, that's two things. And then, you know, with this showcase of city life, the third rhetorical device that comes to mind for me at least, is allusion. Allusion, referencing or talking about something without literally saying it or talking about it. You are throwing in these allusions with an A. You know, it's more subtle. You got some purpose in mind when you're doing that. And, you know, I would say far from art is also another example of allusion. When we look at art, the root form in artifice, and how we are now fairly confident this is about ragging on the city. This is about like taking shots at the city, saying city ain't all that. So that's what we got there. Next up, I'm going to try to now form my intro paragraph. Based on all this, I'm just going to try to dive right into it from the top without spending too much time or any time really brainstorming a thesis. I'm going to try to just flow into a thesis based on what I've got here. All right, here's our paragraph. I'm going to read it out real quick for you guys. It's probably safe to say that the authors of A Fair and Happy Milkmaid couldn't stand city life. In fact, they allude to the idea of city life as artifice in their sketch. They suggest that aromatic ointments and other beautifying techniques common in the city are vain, and that country lasses who work and make their hands hard with labor are more beautiful than their effete urban counterparts. These allusions to city life, combined with puns and a parallel writing style, allow them to make an argument in favor of pastoral living. On the one hand, we may roll our eyes and view their argument as a romantic lament, but on the other, they present a valid case against the rise of cities during the Renaissance. All right, let's break it down one by one. I started with this hook that alludes to the subject. Remember, this was the author's critique of city life. Next up, I get more specific. I'm following that inverse pyramid strategy to narrow it down. Next up, because we're an AP language, this means we're specificity freaks. We can't get enough of specificity, so we narrow it down even more with an example this time. Also, I've taken bits of their language and defined it in my own terms. Very quick definitions because I just want to cut to the chase. Now, remember our three major annotations, the pun, the allusions, the parallel writing style. Well, those are our hypotheses. Those are going to end up being our body paragraphs, each one of those. And we tie them to the idea that they are all working in favor of an argument towards pastoral living. Also, yeah, you better know it. This is even more specific than our last point. Now, you'll recall how obsessed we've been also with figuring out our subject. What are we talking about really? Well, this is where that pays off, because now we're going to have our significance factor. Many students don't know this. This is the thing that puts you into that level 5 category. How does your thesis contribute to the field? How does your argument, how is this paper going to make a contribution to the subject that you are writing about? This is what makes you and your essay unique. Also, we are now full-on fiends for specificity, and that is exactly how we want it. Now, the last thing here is, yes, we want to have a sophisticated analysis. Yes, we want it to be a unique argument. But at the same time, we also want to show sophistication in language. We got to flex. We got to show that we can ball when it comes to writing. So you see here, I've basically invented my own term, city life as artifice, using hyphens. Okay, you can do something like that. Also further down, you'll see I set myself up for my own parallel structure, right? On the one hand, we got this, but on the other hand, we got that. And I have even done an omission. I've said on the one hand, and then below I've said on the other, meaning on the other hand, but I've omitted hand. Little stuff like that shows you have command of language, and the graders are gonna like that. All right, we're in the outro now. I basically combine my intro and writing my thesis as much as I can. I do it together, dealing with them as one package, because one, it's faster, and two, the intro paragraph, the whole process of writing it, it's naturally designed to lead you to your thesis. This is because of how it is a process of increasing specificity more and more and more until you get yourself to the most specific thing in your essay, which is your thesis. Make it good enough, leave your reader in pieces. Playmaker Nate out.